Welcome to the fastest stuff in town. Today on Masechtas Yevamot stuff, Kuf Vav. We are going to begin on Kuf Vav Amud Aleph, the very top line. Tan Rabbanan. Chalitza mutas ksheira. When it comes to the Beis Din, having the man do chalitza, even if it was through deception, it's still kosher. So ezuhi chalitza mutais. What is the mistaken chalitza? So Amr Shlakish kol she'amr lo chalutz. So the person has no idea what chalitza is. They say, yeah, do chalitza and you'll be married. Of course, that's not the point. They wanted to make sure that he would not be married to her, but he just wanted to make sure the chalitza was done. So this works. So Emily Rav Yochanan, that can't be. I learned that bench nischav and hu v'lo nischav nehi, or bench nischav nehi v'lo nischav nehu chalitza subsula. That if you do not have both parties with the kavana of doing chalitza, then it doesn't work. The only time it works is actually schavnu shneim ke'echad. V'yad amrit chalitza kshera. How could it possibly be a good chalitza? Obviously, it was done without his kavana. It means kol she'amrim lo chalitz lo almanah shetitin lo chamasayim zuz. In a situation, a person says, do chalitza on condition that will give you $200. And on this, Rashi says, even if we don't give it to you, it's still going to be good. I thought a tanai could be mavatal, the actual situation. So Rashi says, it's all learned out from Bnei Gad of Bnei Ruvain. And we learn out the tanai she'efshir l'sanais al shliach. The only time it works is if it could be done through an agent. If it cannot be done through a shliach, going chalitza, has to be done by the guy himself. Ein tanai moil, but it doesn't help. And this is the reason for it, which is question 1 as well as TB 30. So he said, because the whole davar gamrina b'mnei Bnei Ruvain, ve'en tanai chal el davar she'esher la'asois al yedei shliach kenachalos aretz v'chalitza einu b'shlichos. Okay. Weiter. Tanya mihachi, we learned something similar to this. Chalitza mutais, chalitza with deceptions kshera. So ezu hi chalitza mutas. Kol she'amrim chalitza l'amanas she'tid l'masayim zuz. $200. Umasa is a story of Yishachas with a woman. Shenaf lifnei yavam shein hogun law, a guy who wasn't proper. The yomru lo, and we said to this guy, chalutz la amanas she'tid l'chamasayim zuz. Do chalitza and you'll get money. And it didn't give them money. They actually said it was okay, in accordance to what we said before. There's a person who went in front of Rav Chia Barabba. He said to her, Biti, my daughter, amoidi do yibum. So that's what was said. It says Rashi, amoidi nisyayvmi loy. So on this, Amrule, she said, Ema yeshivasa zuhi amidasa, which, in other words, she didn't want to do the marriage. As Rashi says, yeshivasa, mihisyavim loy zuhi amidasa, zuhi tekanta. So in other words, she didn't want to engage in yibums. Amrullah yadat lei. So she said, it says Rashi, Makaris he boishum davar ganai. Do you see something about this guy that you don't like? Armalei in? Yeah, yes. Money I saw. What does that mean? It says Rashi, davar zehi yodas by shein ba liyama el kedei echol lachleis memayna legarsha. His whole intention, as it continues in the Gemara, he wanted to take advantage, to take all my possessions, and then divorce me. He didn't really care about doing yibum in order to be able to make sure that we'll end up having a child together and name our child after his brother. No, he had ulterior motives. So, you don't like this guy? So, in that case, chalitza should be done. Now that you're puzzle, chalitza mal yasa, you can do regular chalitza. Kihechi the tishrei l'alma, in order that you'll be mutter to the world. Bas chamua d'Rav Papa naflifnei Yavam. So this relative of Rav Papa fell in front of Yibum. She'enu hagen lo. Again, this person was not someone who was fit for her. So asakamei dabai amalei cholitzla do chalitza v'kach atakainza, and you'll be married that way. Of course, this was a trick to get him to not be connected to her anymore. So amalei Rav Papa lo savla mar lo hadim Rav Yochanan. I thought, don't you hold like Rav Yochanan that it doesn't work like that? He didn't have that kavana. So what should I say to him? I'll give you money, and that actually will work. So give me the money. So she can say that I fooled you, I was joking around with you. So of the Milo Tanya, we learn, if a person is running away from jail, and there's a ferry in front of him, the Amalei, and that person says, Toil dinner, take a dinner, Vahavireni, and let me pass the ferry. So Ein Bo El Scharai. So this person will only have to pay him for the schar. So again, he could have said that I fooled you, and therefore that was something allowed in order to be able to get from one side to the next. So Amalei avuch hecha, your father, where is he? Says Rashi, Kolimer kimiduma ani, appears sheishacha av, that you have a father, the aim, and a mother, smuchen lecha wasapik sorachecha, to be able to take care for your needs. Lafikach mechadedin shmaitech. That's why you are very sharp. Amalei b'masa imech, imach, in the city of your mother. Hecha, where? Amalei b'masa, in the city, yoiv b'hu einai ushachivan. Fine. Weiter. Tanobanan. Chalitza muteis kshera. As we said, a deceptive chalitza works. However, get muta posel. If it was a deceptive get, that will not work. Says Rashi, im eno mikayemes tanai. If you made a condition and the condition wasn't fulfilled, then it will be a problem. Why? Says Rashi, like we saw before, the efshir get al shliach, because it can be done through a shliach. Sha'ayim shnaim kisvu utnu get liishti. You say to two people, go and write and give a get to my wife. Hari elu yichtav v'yitnu. Hilkach demei l'tanai, dami l'tanai to b'nei Gad u'b'nei Ruvain. Mahani beit tanai. Fine. Therefore, by get muta it's possible. Chalitza museis psula. When it comes to a forced chalitza, that actually will not work. And of course, get musa actually is, interesting enough, it says is kosher. Now, hechadami, if the person says I want to do it, so I feel chalitza nami, then chalitza should also work because it's not really forced. Get namilo. If a person says no by a get, then it shouldn't work by that either. So hechikamer chalitza mutes. What is this case? Olam kosher. Get mutasul olam posel. The truth is, whenever we're talking about a forced chalitza, it always works. By forced chalitza, of a forced get, that will never work. So chalitza museis get muusa zimnin kosher zimnin posel. The truth is that sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Hadiyam roitzani hadaloimer roitzani. It depends if he says roitzani or not. And we know the sign yakar when it comes to karbanos, so that we can force him. You would think that he can bring it against his will. It has to be with his will. So hakeitzad kaifanosad shiyermer roitzani, the famous Gemara, that you can actually force him until he says roitzani. V'chein atamaitza begiti nashim. So too when it comes to giving a get, kaifanosad shiyermer roitzani. Once he says roitzani, so then the din is that once you say rotzani, so the din is that it can now be given. You can do chalitza even though you're not makir, says Rashi. You don't recognize the yav, says Rashi, yavam v'yibma shabo lefenenu. They come in front of you, these two people, this man and the woman, lachlaitz ve'enu yonu makirin boi shu yavama. So even though you don't know who these people are, we can still, according to this opinion, you can still do chalitza for them. We can just trust that it's okay. So that's what he says. Also, when it comes to a girl, if she comes and says, I want to do miyun to remove herself from a relationship, that also works. Ein kaisun get chalitza el imkein makirin, and therefore ein kaisun get miyun el imkein makirin. However, when it comes to actually writing a document, says Rashi, hoyel v'niskokin lehem alpha b'shein makirin behen. Since we'll actually allow them to do it, we're not going to actually write anything. Eidim haroyim b'chalitza. If they saw the chalitza, these witnesses, or they saw the miyun, ein kaisim v'naisin la liyos b'yadol l'zachos. We're not going to give it to them for them to be able to have some type of a claim. El imkin makirin shehin yavam v'yibma, unless we know for a fact who they are. V'hashtadin kaisvin el imkin makirin. Now that we only write it once we know who they are, inami lav yavamahu, or nafik chorbah mine, nothing bad will come out. The whole kama delays will get chalitza will nasbula, because if there's no get chalitza, then they won't be able to get married. So we may allow them to do it, but it doesn't mean that there's going to be any document to verify this ceremony. Fine. Imkain makirin vein kaisvin get miyun el imkain makirin. The chashina lebeistin toyin. We're concerned of this mistake, that if they allow the Adam to write this, that they saw that the chalitza was done in front of them, then says Rashi, v'fil lo kosva boy, even if it wasn't written, chashin and shematira get zela based on acher. They'll bring this document to a second based in the yismuchu alav, and they're going to rely on the first one. Lo yivdaku, they're not going to examine im pleni ze hakosu beget ze yavamahu. They're not going to examine the imlav the yisu oisam. They're going to use it to let them get married. Yutayin bahalacha shein yoidin shechotzen u'miyam and afabishin makirin. We let them do chalitz and miyun, but the reality is it's not going to be able to allow them to do more, because we're not going to write a document with that. That's the reason why, because otherwise a chorba can come out from it, because maybe in fact it shouldn't have been done. Rabbi didei yomer, no, ein chalitz elim kein makirin, vein ma'amad and elim kein makirin. We only do chalitz or miyun if we actually know who these people are, and therefore once we know who they are, lafikach kaisvin get chalitza alpha pi she'ein makirin, the kaisvin get miyun alpha pi she'ein makirin. That's the reason why you can write a get chalitza or a miyun, even if you're not makir, because we're not concerned of the first basin making a mistake. And as we continue the parak, to end of the parak, to Kuv Vav Amud Beis, we see the last Mishnah of mitzvahs chalitza, the actual ceremony. Bahu v'yevim toila beistin. So her and the man come to Beis Din. Vehein masin lo eitza genislo. So the Beis Din tries to give good advice. Shenemar v'karlo zikne iro v'dibrei. They speak to him. Vehi omeres me'en yavami l'hakim l'echav shem b'Yisrael l'aval yavmi. So he doesn't want to do yibum with me. He doesn't want to prolong the name of my husband. I don't want to take her. All of this is said in Lashon HaKodesh, as Rashi quotes in Gemara Masechtas Sot on Lamed Beis, that over there it teaches that it has to be said Lashon HaKodesh. And then it says, V'nigshin yevimto elav l'einei hazkenim, that the Yevama went to the elders. L'choltza na'aloi mi'al raglu. She then removes the shoe from his foot. V'yarka b'fanav, and she spits in front of him. And that has to be a spit, a ro kaniro l'dayanim. The judges need to see it. The onsa v'omer kachiyas al isha shelo yivna as habayis as beis achiv. So it should be to the man who does not wish to build the house of his brother. Ad kan hayu makrin. That was up to where they would read. Ukshehikra Rabbi Horkanus tachas ha'olah b'kfar etom. And then when Rabbi Horkanus went and he was declaring this, it was under a tree in this kfar etom. Rashi says, "B'talmidim hayoshvim sham," regarding his students that were sitting there, lifnei rabban b'shas hachalitza. The Gomer is kol haparsha. He completed the entire parsha. So husku liyos garmim kol parsha. He actually again forced that it should all have been read. V'nikra shemo b'Yisrael beis cholotz hanayal. So that was up until the point. The mitzvah b'dayanim v'lo mitzvah b'talmidim. However, the declaration only needs to be said by the judges, not by the students that were present. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, mitzvah al kol ha'oimdim sham loimer cholotz hanayal, that everyone, even the students that were present, should also say cholotz hanayal. Omer Rabbi Yehuda mitzvah chalitza kara v'kayrei v'chayletzetz v'roika v'kayra. So this is the order. You're supposed to read various psukim, him and her, and then she removes the shoes, then she spits, and then again there's more reading. So my kamashma asnisani. That's what the Mishnah says. HaKamashmon mitzvah hachi. That actually is the mitzvah we saw previously, the apich leislan ba. If let's say she spits before she takes off the shoe, it's still not going to be ma'akev. Tani hachi. Bein shehikdim chalitza or kika, bein shehikdim rikika chalitza mashiasa asoi. If it was done out of order, it still works. Rabbi Haiman the makri get chalitza lo ikri ludida lo lechudei v'aba yami. When a person who reads, you should not read lo lechudei, not to her separately, v'aba yami lechudei. Damashma abba yami, elo lo ava yami. In other words, you have to be careful the way that you pronounce it, so it's being said the words properly. V'lo likri l'didei lo l'chudei, chafatzti l'chudei. Don't say the words lo separately, and chafatzti, damashma chafatzti lakachta. That it sounds like you do want to take her. Lo chafatzti lakachta. You have to say it all as one. I do not want to take her. Rava Omer, Afsuke Milsahi, Afsuke Milsa Leislan Ba. The truth is, this is not an issue because it's self-understood what you're being said. Rav Ashi Yashkilu Rav Kahana de Kamitstayer Makrila Lo Ava Yami. He was very careful in how it was recited. Armali Lo Sabla Marlaha de Rava. Don't you hold of the shita of Rava, that's not a problem. So Amrulay Maida Rava Boy Ava Yami. He actually agrees when it comes to that, that is the one line you have to be careful with. Rabbi Haiman, because of Gita, the Chalitzasa, a person who writes a document of Chalitza, Lichtav Hachi, this is what it should say. The document should read, Akrinuha Ladida, that I read to her, Min Me'ain Yevami ad Ava Yami, Akrinhu Ladide, and it was read back, Min lo ad Lakachta. So, in other words, you don't need to write the whole pasuk, that is sufficient. Mar Zutra Misartate, he actually would do sirtut on this document, because of the Kuli Parsha. In order to be able to write the various psukim, he felt that it was necessary that you had to do sirtut. On this, Rashi says, the kaimel, and we hold sholosh tevos, shel mikra, if you have 3 words of a pasuk, kosvin b'lo sirtut, that could be written without the etchings. Da'aled ein kosvin, however, once you were writing 4 words already, as it's brought down in the beginning of Perik in Masechtas Gittin, you do need sirtut. So when it has to be 4 words, 4 words already need sirtut. It's the truth is, it's not something given over to be written. Says Rashi, Parsha b'fnei atzma b'sechtas gittin, de'gatani ein kaisvin megillah latinik l'salamid boy. The hilchos kavase de Mar Zutra. The halacha is like Mar Zutra. So Rabbi, Rakaka, if a woman spit, ukalato taso haruach, and the wind came, lo asavo klum, and like it basically captured it, so she didn't really accomplish anything in that situation. Look in Rashi, the hilchos of Kamar Zutra, the kaisvin, that you do write it. It says, "Avol hai sfiras devarim hu v'la b'kedushasehu hilchos of Kamar Zutra to b'makam mitzvah shari." So, what does it mean that kol taruach l'roik v'haviru shlo bo lefnei hayavam, that the roik did not go toward the yavam when it came to the action of the chalitza. So we say lo v'lav klum. That's not considered to be of any any validity. So my taima, because the pasuk says v'yark b'fanav be'inon. It's necessary that it must actually be done in his direction, and therefore, if the ruach causes the spit to go in a different direction, then that doesn't work. Hilka hu aruch v'hui gutza. Let's say, for example, they're not of the same size. He is long and she's short. Kol tahsahu haruach ikabafanav. So there is an element of kolot haruach, and therefore you have to be careful. He arucha v'hu guts be'inon ad mated lahadei apei v'hader azal. If, let's say, she is long and he is short, so you need until it reaches lahadi apei, to his face, her face, the hader azal, and then goes. So again, you have to be careful to make sure it's done in front of the yavam. Says Rashi, "Ika b'fanav kivan shiatz mepiha hay b'fanav lahadi apei leneged panav, toward his face. Shiarehu l'mol panav kodim sheklateu haruach." Amar Rava, achol tuma v'raksa. Let's say a person, she ate garlic and then spit. Achol gar gishta v'raksa losav l'klum. That also is not valid. By taima, v'yarkama atzma b'inan v'leika. It actually has to be that you're spitting from your own accord, that you're actually creating your own saliva, and not because of these other foods. V'yamarava srichi dayani lamichsi ruka kinafik mepuma diavama dechsiv l'eni hazakenim v'yarka. It's necessary, they actually have to see that the spit comes out of her mouth. So Tanya Rabbi Yehuda Pamachas Hayinu Yoshel Lifnei Reb Tarfin. We're in front of Reb Tarfin. Uvasi Yevamot, and there was a woman to do chalitza. V'yarmelanu, and they said to us, Anu Kulchem, that we should all answer Cholatanal, Cholatanal, Cholatanal. So again, we see from here, it's not just the Dayanim, but anyone who is present should be the ones that say this declaration of Cholatanal. Hanulach mitzvahs chalitza, Hanulach mitzvahs chalitza, Hanulach mitzvahs chalitza. As we will, in tomorrow's daf, continue with the next parak of Beis Shammai Omrim, in Memanin el Arusais, that mian is only done for an arusa, which we'll again discuss that more. Let's see, maybe one more question. Question 2. Yarka, which, let's say she spits, the kalatalaso haruach, and the wind kind of captures it before it goes to him. So mahadin. So that question is, what do we hold? So he says like this: if she's, let's say, in front of him, yachar kach off kagon, and then it flew away. It was in front of him, and then it flew away. Kagon shehi gutza. She's short, v'hu aruch, and he's long, kosher. However, im he arucha, v'hu goitz, if, let's say, she's long and he's short, v'af koidim shegia ala psula. In other words, because if, let's say, she's towering over him and she spits, so it shoots, let's say, away from him, so it's never in his direction. However, if she's shorter than him and she spits, so it is b'fanav. The problem is if she's taller and that spit never got in toward him or near him, then it becomes problematic, and it could, in fact, be it would be ma'akev. Question TA 29. Matam demandi omer. What is the reason the one who said that koisvin get miyun, that you can write a document for miyun afal b'hi she'en makirin, even though you don't know who they are? If you don't know who this girl is and wants to do miyun, so what is the reason why the Mandi Omer would say that you would write a get miyun? Amaylo chashinan shlo haya hachol let's yevama. Why wouldn't we be afraid of chorba coming from it? So he says svirule de'en cholzin el imkin makirin, because he's of the opinion that chalitza cannot be done unless you're makir. So if chalitza cannot be done unless you know who these people are, so we're not concerned of mian being done, and maybe some chorba can come out from it. Because of that, we don't have to worry, again, that the potential of chalitza being done incorrectly. Adkan.